Imagine a world of colorful conversations, conspiracy theories, vibrant music, and grandiose thinking. Now imagine being the only person you know able to experience that world, because unfortunately that world only exists in your head. And if that was you, then you are part of the growing number of individuals affected by schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a chronic, incurable mental illness that affects 1% of our world's population today. And prior to doing the research necessary to give this informative speech today, I was already familiar with schizophrenia and its effects due to my brother's diagnosis of schizophrenia over 6 years ago. And growing up, I know we all probably have some sort of preconceived idea or plan for what we would like our future to hold. But unfortunately for that 1% of our population diagnosed with schizophrenia, their future holds a lifelong debilitating mental illness that requires constant medication and ultimately ending in multiple hospitalizations. And schizophrenia shows no mercy to any culture, religion, gender, or anyone. I understand my my family is not the first to have firsthand experience, nor will we be the last. So today I would like to first cover the first early warning signs and onset symptoms of schizophrenia, moving on into possible causes, treatment methods, and lastly ending in the prognosis. The early warning signs and onset symptoms vary. The early warning signs in a male, typically earlier on in male than females. Males see them in their late teens to early 20s, whereas women experience these early signs in their late 20s to early 30s. Also being difficult to see these early warning signs in teens due to the common behavioral changes seen at that point of time anyway. Now, the early warning signs can be anywhere from paranoia, change in hygiene, change in appearance, or an extreme obsession with a religion or a cult. Now, the onset symptoms of schizophrenia are categorized into three parts of positive, negative, and cognitive symptoms. Positive symptoms are ones that are said to make a person lose touch with reality, such as hallucinations, delusions, and movement disorders, such as ones that cause them to have bizarre posture or sit inappropriately. And next are the negative symptoms, ones that disrupt a person's ability to express emotions and behaviors as they normally would, such as disorganized speech and thought, which cause a person to I'm going ahead of myself. Such as social withdrawal, which is isolation, or loss of motivation and incapable of completing everyday tasks. Now, cognitive symptoms, as I tried to reference in the negative, are ones that refer to thinking, memory, and overall thought process. Now, these are ones that concern disorganized speech or thought, leave people incapable of having normal conversations or staying on topic of a conversation, as well as what the National Institute of Mental Health likes to say, poor executive functioning, such as being able to retain new information and apply it to make new decisions or immediately use that information after learning it. So now that we've covered what the early signs and symptoms of schizophrenia are, I'd like to move into the possible causes of schizophrenia, such as the possible causes aren't yet concrete, but researchers have narrowed down possible causes to genetics, environment, brain chemistry, as well as substance abuse. Genetics involves if you have a 10% greater risk of developing schizophrenia if you have an immediate family member suffering or has suffered from schizophrenia. Environment, particularly in the first and second trimester, if exposed to viruses or malnutrition, pose a greater risk as well. Now, the Mental Health Association stresses on brain chemistry, such as those brain chemicals of dopamine and serotonin, since a person suffering from schizophrenia has an imbalance of both of those, which leave them incapable of reacting to normal stimuli such as new people, lights, sounds, in different ways. And lastly is substance abuse, particularly in the teenage years, create a greater risk of developing the disease. Now, as we categorized schizophrenia as positive, negative, and cognitive, it inhibits the ability for a person to function in everyday life properly, leads to being able to properly diagnose these symptoms as symptoms of schizophrenia. So I'd like to now discuss how to properly diagnose someone. Before a doctor can ensure a proper diagnosis of schizophrenia, he or she must first rule out any other possible medical conditions or reasonings of the presented symptoms, such as substance abuse, which prolonged substance abuse, there's many drugs that can mimic signs and symptoms of schizophrenia, as well as any other psychiatric disorders, illness like bipolar disorder that can early on be very similar to schizophrenia, as well as medical conditions such as brain tumors which can alter a person's behavior. Now, once everything else is ruled out, a physician can sit down and focus on if a person has two or more of the negative, positive, and cognitive symptoms, then that can lead to a proper diagnosis of schizophrenia. Now, obviously, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes in observation that goes into ensuring a proper diagnosis of schizophrenia. So now I would like to cover the possible treatments of schizophrenia. There are a variety of treatments, such as medications and psychotherapies. Medications being antipsychotics, antidepressants, and anti-anxiety medications that all help treat, manage, or in some cases even eliminate the symptoms of schizophrenia. Now, in medication and combination of psychotherapies such as social skills training, family therapy, and individual therapy are proven to help a great deal with treating schizophrenia, as the American Family Physicians have stated numerous times. Now, having a better understanding of the diagnosis and what all goes into it better leads you into the prognosis, as what you expect to see what happens to a person's future that has schizophrenia. Now, there are some success cases where people have fully functioning lives while suffering from schizophrenia, but most cases, their futures are a little more bleak, such as, to name a few, people suffering from schizophrenia often have a greater risk of substance abuse, as well as die of heart disease caused by medications, as well as they make up 1/3 to 1/2 of our homeless population. And unfortunately, last but not least, suicide is the most common cause of death for people suffering with schizophrenia, having a 10% lifetime risk. Now, I know we covered a lot, and we covered schizophrenia as a whole, what it is, the possible causes, various ways to treat it, and what it's like to be a person living with it. And like I said, 6 years ago, it's been 6 years since my brother was diagnosed. And it truly is a family illness, even though only one person is physically afflicted. Now, though my brother, along with 2 million other people, suffer with this disease, if I've learned anything from this disease. And if I can have you take away anything from this informative speech, it's that these people suffering don't have to suffer alone, that they can be surrounded by loved ones and friends, and they can receive treatment if helped. And if anyone out there is suffering from any of these symptoms or know anyone suffering, I urge you to help them. This doesn't have to be a death sentence, even though statistics say otherwise. And lastly, if you or anyone have suicidal thoughts, please call the National Institute or the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Thank you.